So, Chris, I know that among all of us in this work, you've trained probably more people than anybody else in terms of training them, bringing them into the practice. Not just in terms of offering trainings, but actually involving people and learning how to be practitioners and going out in the world with what they've learned through your clinics and internships and so on. And I'm wondering, when you bring people in, how do you decide who's going to make it, or how do you choose the people, and how do you get them inspired in the beginning when it's so different from their training, and yet they have to have had that training to go to work for you?
You know, really what I do is I look for a feeling in a person. So when they come in, I really don't care if they've heard of the 3 principles or not, but I can tell. I sometimes have wishful thinking about people, but in looking back, I can always tell, like, people that really kind of catch on to this are drawn to a feeling. Like they know something really incredible just happened to them. Like sometimes people will interview me for their graduate work, to become a marriage and family therapist. They've got to interview you and see, like, what's it like to be in this profession. And if I start talking about it and people start listening and they start like getting quizzical about it rather than trying to tell me what they already know about it, then I follow that, and it's kind of like just following. It's like I give them a little bit and see if they take it, and if they keep taking it and they're open and they settle down in the interview, then I figure I've got a better than 50-50 chance of them, being open to hearing something. So that's the best I can ever do, is just look for the feeling in the person. So a lot of times people come in and they're not, they're a little bit stressed or anxious themselves, but they know that there's something here that they want for themselves as well as for the people that they're working with. So I'm also looking for people that are not looking for a leader, that they're have that confidence in themselves that they can take it for themselves and then share it with the world. That's really what I ultimately want, is for people to learn this and then go out and teach other people. And that's been my whole goal. So I make a point of always bringing in graduate students and doing practicums and trying to hire people that I've trained, which of course works out really well for me. But yeah, that's what I do, is I just really look for somebody who can listen and is interested in living in a nice feeling.
Another thing I've noticed about your work is that while you have a huge following in Hawaii, so many people that have known, and also in Minnesota, but people that have come to various programs and referred people and known you for years. And 2 things. One is, they don't seem to make it about you, and it doesn't go to your head. And I think that those are qualities that a lot of people don't really understand about those of us who do this work. That it's not a personal thing, and yet it has to come from some deep personal experience.
Well, I remember when I first learned this. I first met Sydney Banks, and he asked me if I wanted him to help me, and I said, yeah. And he said, just be you, Chris. Just be you. And I thought, well, who am I? I'm nobody. I'm just a person. And that's really the thing I keep remembering, that who am I? I mean, 100 years from now, people won't even remember who Christine Heath is. But if the 3 principles are still around in 100 years, then I've been successful. And that's really that the principles are so much bigger than any one person. And when we make it be about ourselves, which I have, believe me, it's gone to my head more than once. And whenever that happens, I lose it. It's like all of a sudden I get insecure and I lose the feeling and it doesn't go anywhere. And I think that when anybody becomes special in a negative way or in a positive way, it makes us different from other people, and that creates insecurity. And so to me, I'm just a regular person. I have a lot of bad points. I have a lot of good points, and I understand that, and so it's not personal about me. And that's one of the most important things, I think, because if I make it be about me, other people will make it be about me. And if other people make it about me, now I got to take care of all these other people. Then that kind of well-being's in my hand, and I have a hard enough time keeping my own. So I want them to have their own sense of understanding, so they go within themselves, not looking to me. So yeah, I don't want to be a leader. I want to be a catalyst for people to see what's already in them. That's what's important to me. So I'm thrilled. When people make it be about me, I get very uncomfortable because, the next minute somebody's going to be complaining about me because I didn't fix them. So I try to just remember that everybody's on their own. And we're on our own, but yet it brings us together at a much deeper level.
That's really beautiful. All of us who've been doing the work for a while, we have times when it's just magical and the other person really sees things and comes to life before our eyes, and times when it doesn't. And that's the other thing, that you have a real ability to roll with that and to help other people as they're learning to not be invested in what their patients do. That. And I wish you would talk about that. I think that's a practitioner problem area sometimes, that a lot of people getting into this work are like, well, once I see this, then I should cure everybody that sets foot in my door, and everybody should walk out perfect, and or I'm not doing it right, or something like that. So
yeah, it's a big trick of the mind to see, when you see the principles deep enough, to know that it's the cure, but you can't cure anybody. That's the kind of a paradox of it. It's like it's the cure, but it can only cure a person if they see it. And that's where humility comes in, because I can't change anybody. I can't fix anybody. If I did, the world would be a different place. And I'd be retired and living on the beach in Hawaii because I wouldn't need to help anybody. But that's not the way it is, and I know that I can't. No matter what I do, I can't fix anybody. Now, I can do things that make it more likely that I'll get through to somebody, but I think the thing that's the most powerful in helping another human being is having a sense of certainty, because you know it for yourself. Like, I know in myself that I was cured. I know that. And I still can be a pain in the neck from time to time, but I'm not unhappy. I'm not sad. I'm not waking up at night. I sleep long hours. I'm a happy person. I've had the most magical life that a human being could ask for. Really have. I can't cry because I don't want my lashes to come off. It's funny when you get touched with gratitude like that. It just gets me. It's like, oh, and I there's nothing better than that, because you just touch something deeper inside of yourself. But I think that there's so much I don't know. There's so much that I can see that if I have a deeper understanding, I could help people more. I could really do more. I really know that if I was deeper, I could help more people. And so that's the thing that I know that about myself. I mean, I know that there's so much more I don't know. And to me, there's so many people that I haven't been able to reach. Like, let's say 90% of the people that come in to see me make big time changes and get better. There are a few people that haven't gotten better. And that is the thing that keeps me going deeper, keeping looking, because I know that I can get to them. I know that. I just can't see it yet.
Yeah.
And so I don't see what's getting in the way of me not seeing that. So I know I can't really do anything to make that happen except for live my life, watch the whales, take care of my husband, sit in the sun, have a nice life. Really, it's like I remember that Sid used to just stress that so much about the importance of just having an ordinary life, just being an ordinary person. And I've just seen so many times when I've lost sight of that and thought I was pretty important. Or, the other kind of trick of the mind is when you have a client that comes in, that if they got the understanding, they'd really be able to bring in, like a group of people, like let's say a doctor would come in. I think, oh my gosh, if this doctor gets it, they can really pull this into the field of medicine. That would be wonderful. And so as soon as I think that that client is there to advance my agenda with the principles, I'm toast. That's it, man. Doesn't go anywhere. Yeah. So I guess I've learned that through time that I just have to not care if people get it or not. And my job as a therapist is to do whatever I need to do to help that person to find whatever balance they can see to find. So I don't always, get people that turn around like I did over a weekend. Yeah. Sometimes people stay with me for a longer time than others. Sometimes people are there 10, 12 sessions, and they're fine. Sometimes people are still coming back, 5 years later, but they're not coming back because they're distraught. They're coming back because they want to learn more. So they start continuing to go deeper and continue to have a nicer life. And that's kind of the fun of it, is I just see that people kind of come and go. They'll come and stay for a while, get better, and then they go and live their life. And then they come back, it's like time to go deeper, and then they kind of find that feeling again and go deeper. So it's just remembering that I don't have any control over it. I don't have any control over my own understanding, because if I did, believe me, I'd be at a much higher level if I could do something about it. So I know if I can't do it, nobody else can either. Yeah. But it's just kind of turning ourselves in the direction of what we don't understand and what we don't know, what we can't see, rather than being content at looking at what we know already and just staying with that. Because it gets old then. You lose that feeling, you lose your aliveness for the unknown and for the learning of it. It just becomes like something else. And what I see with people when they do that, and people do that like other professionals will come in, they change, they get into a little better state of mind, and I think, yeah, they're coming, and then they just stay right there. That's all they can see to do. That's all they want to do. It's all, at least for now. And then now that I've been doing this a long time, I've got people that I trained in the 90s that now are kind of resurfacing again. It's very cool. Like there's about 3 people here that were employees of mine in Hawaii when we had a big grant in the 90s, and they're off doing different things, and suddenly they're back. One of them was just like really touched at a really deep level at the end of the day yesterday, and she came and she said, Chris, I've never been into listening to Sid Banks or reading his books. She said, I never really got it before. She said, I know I'm really slow at this, but I get it. I get why I'd want to be attracted to that, why I'd want to listen to that. She said, I know I probably fought you tooth and nail my whole life, but I really get it. And she just welled up with tears, and she was really touched by that. So, there's just no accounting for the timetable. Sometimes people change really fast, and sometimes people just kind of percolate a little bit at a time. And so there's no right way to do it. I know sometimes when people hear my story, they think they should do what I did, and then they get down on themselves because they didn't. But I was just lucky. I didn't have anything to do with it. It's kind of like, to me, it was like God reached down and grabbed me by the collar and said, you need to get into a better state of mind. And I was like, oh, wow, oh, okay, great. Oh, I like this. This looks much better. Oh, I used to think that. And it just like that, my whole life just looked like it was a different reality. Yeah. So that's not something you can do. You can just want to be happy. I do remember that about a week before I went to that training, I just remember thinking to myself, you know, all I want to do is be happy. That's really all I want. And I didn't care about anything else. And so when we are on, that's what I find is like people that show up that are kind of like there was a woman that came here from Minneapolis who said that she got on Eventbrite and was looking at all the different opportunities for training on Eventbrite and somehow got here. You know, it's like, who would have thought that that would happen? But when people show up like that, you know that there's something in them that they know where to go. It's like they've got that kind of homing pigeon feeling to them, and they're finding their way back home.
Yeah.
And that really it's how it felt for me. It's like I knew that I didn't like being unhappy. The options were killing myself, getting out of the field totally, or finding a husband who would make me happy. And of course, none of those three were a very good idea. So it was lucky that I went to that. It was lucky that I changed, but I also know that in some way that was it was my role. It's my role in life. And I think that's the fun thing, is to have when you feel like you have that purpose. Who doesn't like to help others?